All right, we are live. Welcome to Hump Day Hangouts, episode 262. Today is the 13th of November, and I don't know if anyone else knows this, but apparently there's something called Black Friday at the end of the month, and Cyber Monday. Apparently there's some sales or something going on. Well, we've got something even better to kick it off, so make sure you keep your eyes and ears open for that. We got some good stuff coming, and it's going to be free. We're not going to even require an opt-in, but more on that later. Let's talk to the guys real quick, and then we got a couple announcements, and we will dive into your questions. So start on my left here. Bradley, how you doing today?
Good, man. Hanging out, working hard instead of hardly working.
Well, are you going to go like ATV riding this weekend, or is it too
No, I've got my daughter this weekend, so it's her weekend. But December 6th, that weekend, I'm going to my favorite spot down in southwestern Virginia again for the weekend. Actually, I'm going on the 5th for Thursday the 5th, so looking forward to that. Although it may be cold, it should be fun.
Nice. Marco, speaking of weather, how you doing, man?
Man, it's starting to get cold down here.
Oh, like
you guys are sending your cold. It was almost 65 last night.
Oh, it's awful.
What a dick.
Ridiculous. Stop it. Arctic, whatever you want, whatever you guys are doing up there, stop it. We don't want it.
Well, speaking of cold, Chris, how you doing?
I don't know, like there is nothing to complain. It's cozy warm, and I was out today and it was sunny. Yeah, life is good, man.
Awesome. Hernan, you're in Miami, right? For a little bit longer?
Still in South Florida. Yeah, I'm still in South Florida until Saturday, actually, when I'm flying back to Buenos Aires. Excited to be there. I'm going to be spending holiday season with family, but also excited for next week and the week after, which is going to be Black Friday. So that's going to be pretty cool too. So excited to be here.
Outstanding. Yeah, well, it's good stuff, and I'm happy to be here. In case anyone wants to know, the weather is just fine. It's like 70, I guess. I don't know. It's cloudy. So
Quick question, Adam.
What's that?
Are you guys celebrating 11th of November as well?
No. Is that a thing?
I don't know. Like I noticed were all kinds of like online sales on the 11th of November. So I was actually quite surprised.
Huh, 11/11, maybe just like making use of the numbers?
Yep.
All right, fair enough. Well, I missed out on that since it's the 13th.
It's just like every year, people start putting their Christmas trees and decorations up, and stations start playing Christmas music earlier and earlier every fucking year. So I imagine Black Friday starts getting earlier and earlier every year now too. So
gotcha. Well, real quick, if you're new to us, welcome. You're in the right place. You didn't end up on the Weather Channel or discussion of holidays. You are, in fact, at Hump Day Hangouts, and we're going to answer your digital marketing questions shortly. But just so you know, you're in the right place. You can always ask your questions on the page, unless, of course, it's broken and you can't get to the page like people were doing today, in which case come back in a few hours after we unscrew up our technical issue and come back and answer your question. Whether or not you can make it live, you can always ask your question. We encourage you to be here live so you can get clarification or ask or get some more information from you, as well as occasionally we do some fun stuff like giveaways. But you can always catch the replays on YouTube and get your answers that way. Secondly, if you haven't yet grabbed the battle plan, that is your next step. Head over to battleplan.semanticmastery.com for a repeatable process, everything from new websites, age domains, YouTube channels, whatever it is, go there. And past that, if you're ready to grow your digital marketing business, then you probably want, or you should want, a community that includes fast access to real world info. And that's what the mastermind is all about. You can find out more at mastermind.semanticmastery.com. And for everyone, no matter where you're at, and ourselves included, we recommend getting stuff done, right? You build a team, you build processes, you outsource, and you get it done for you. And that's why mgyb.co exists. You can head over there, get ROS drive stacks, syndication networks, press releases, link building, embed, all sorts of stuff with some really, really kick-ass stuff coming here in November. Wink, wink, Black Friday. And then into the new year, we got some good stuff coming.
I have two public service announcements, Adam, sorry to interrupt.
No, let's do it.
Black Friday will be on Wednesdays from now on. I just determined that. And two, all joking aside, we always say that being in the mastermind has its privileges. Well, I've been personally working really hard at incorporating some really neat, I'm not gonna say what it is, but some really neat things into the mastermind to make the user experience and to make people finding what they're looking for, to make that way better, to improve the experience so that people can come in and find exactly what they're looking for, where it is. You know, so whatever it is that you're trying to find. Marco talked shit about Google on and I can't remember when. Well, it's not finished, not 100%, because there is artificial intelligence involved. And interesting enough, the world is, the SEO world is on an uproar because of BERT. And we're actually using BERT in the Semantic Mastery Mastermind. So again, Mastermind, being a member of the Semantic Mastery Mastermind, does have its privileges because you're first to get everything that we do, like business building and ideas and concepts and all of these different things. Hey, on tomorrow's Mastermind webinar, we'll be talking about BERT and AI and what it is actually, because you see all of these discussions in all of these forums and in all these Facebook groups, and nobody has, and I'm not going to drop an F-bomb here, nobody has an effing clue as to what it is that they're talking about. They don't know what BERT is. And all you have to do is go into the documentation to see what BERT is and what it does. And you'll know that it's absolutely nothing to worry about. Absolutely nothing, because of the way that we teach you how to do things in the Semantic Mastery Mastermind. So not only does it have its privileges in that we give you cutting edge and anything that we can to make your life easier and to make, whether it's clients, whether it's ranking, whatever it is, it's there and we give it to people. But it's also, you know, we try to make your life easier. We try to do all of these different things because you're a member of the Semantic Mastery Mastermind. The membership, you know, it's included in the membership fee. Nobody will have to pay extra for all the work that went into the back end of the mastermind to make things so much better. So I'm sorry, it seems like it's a pitch fest for the mastermind, and I should be pitching the hell out of it because it's so good. We get testimonials time and again of how well our stuff works. And so yeah, we should be here tooting our own horns and singing our praises and whatever. I'm not gonna go into that anymore. I'm just letting people know, if you're in the Semantic Mastery Mastermind, be there tomorrow and see just how much we have improved the learning experience, let's call it.
Amen. I got one more to add on to that, you guys. Hernan made a post, I believe on November 4th, about big news for Bradley. Bradley is going to be putting together some training. We decided based on the response, there's still a little bit of time if you want to get in on this. And what it is a step-by-step program on how to grow a massive brand using YouTube and GDN ads. And, you know, we just wanted to gauge, because we, especially Bradley, didn't want to be putting in a lot of time and effort doing the training, you know, right leading up into the holidays if people weren't interested. But so far we've got 71 comments, people interested in early access at a hell of a discount. So I'm going to put the link in. If you want to get in on that, just comment, leave a GIF or a comment on the Facebook thread, and we will be in touch with you shortly. We're going to have some information about that going out. Hernan says, "Let me in." I think he got booted from the from Hump Day Hangouts.
He's back in.
All right. Well, guys, with that said, do we got anything else before we get into questions here?
I'll just give a little update on a couple things. Number one, we've got anybody that joined Local Kingpin, which was the Google Ads training for using search ads for lead generation. That's going to be an update webinar on Monday. Because the interface has changed so much, the principles are, the method is still pretty much the same. There's just some slight differences that I'm going to cover. And the interface, Google Ads interface has changed a lot. Plus, they've got a lot of new or improved features, such as automated bidding strategies and things like that, that I used to suggest never to use, but they've gotten so much better over the last year and a half, 2 years, because of AI, and it's so much better. So artificial intelligence. And so we're going to talk about that slightly, plus any questions that anybody has So that'll be Monday. It'll be probably only about an hour long. That's just for me to give an update and answer questions. So if you're in local Kingpin, I encourage you to get signed up for that. Also, the Google Ads course that Adam was just talking about, that I'm going to be starting in 2 weeks. I think it's, when did I say we're going to do that? I think Monday the 25th is going to be the first webinar, and that'll be about 90 minutes, maybe longer if there's, a lot of Q&A at the end. And then on December 9th, and that's going to be a 2-part deal. The first one will be about YouTube ads and how to use that for branding and for not so much lead generation. It will produce leads, but it's not a direct lead generator. It will, but it's more about branding and also driving relevant traffic into your digital assets. So your entity essentially. So we're going to talk about YouTube on the first webinar, and then on the second webinar, again, that'll be December 9th. We're going to talk about using the Google Display Network. So it's Google Ads training specifically for YouTube and the Google Display Network for setting up branding campaigns, which works incredibly well for both building brand awareness, but also for generating relevant targeted traffic from specific audiences, from specific geolocations, if it's for local, into your entities, your digital assets for a particular brand, which is great for SEO. So it's a way for using Google Ads to not only produce relevant traffic, but improve brand awareness, as well as help the SEO any SEO work that you're doing, because you're driving relevant targeted traffic from known audiences in Google to your SEO, your assets that you've been doing SEO work on. And that takes care of ART, right? Activity, relevance, trust, and authority. Google understands that recognize that traffic as activity. It's relevant because it's from known audiences and specific geolocations. If it's for local, you can target by geolocation. And it's also trusted traffic because it's coming from Google's audience buckets, and essentially. So it's very, very powerful. I've just been crushing it with Google Ads for clients over the last several months. And it just works really, really well. And I've been using them for my own business as well. And it's just a great, great strategy. So that said, it's going to be like right now you can get in for like the pre-training special or whatever, where it's a third of what it's going to be. Once I'm done recording those webinars, it's going to be packaged up and sold for probably $300, or right around there. So if you want to get in for a third of that, I would recommend that you go check out the post that Adam posted, comment on it, and then get signed up. Okay. All right. So
they're more than welcome to wait and pay us more later.
Yeah, that's fine too.
But I would suggest for people not to wait.
All right. So can we get into questions now?
Let's do it.
All right. We got the screen. Okay. Somebody confirm.
Good to go.
Okay. So everybody can see my Humping Wednesday meme.
Nice.
Or GIF. All right. Hump day, right? Wednesday. So, all right. So the first questions are, and it's multiple questions. It's 13 pages worth of questions from Fred Wilson. And Fred, while I appreciate your, and I really do, I appreciate your questions, that's a bit much for Hump Day Hangouts. And also it's getting a little bit into the weeds for stuff that we would typically only cover in this much depth in Mastermind, which I'm sure you're fully aware of that as a former Mastermind member, or in RYS Academy Reloaded, specifically since it's so it pertains to drive stack stuff and kind of deep into the weeds. But with that said, Marco, how much of this do you want to answer?
I haven't really pre-read the question, so
yeah. So should I give you about 10 minutes to get through it?
Yeah, right. Do you have a general question that you can add? I'd be more than happy to answer general questions, but if it's something that specific, yeah, again, membership has its privileges, and there's things that I'll only answer for paying members, and I mean that's the way it should be. I'm sure that people who have paid $3,000-4,000 for the course would appreciate me keeping the secret sauce in where it belongs.
Yeah, and I agree. And I read through the first two sections of this three-part question, this three-section question, and I realized that it's a lot more in depth than what we would typically answer on a free Hump Day Hangout because it's getting into very specific tactics from RYS Reloaded. We would cover it also in the mastermind, I'm sure, but this is not something that we can get that deep into it. That said, I'll give you kind of a general overview and I'll kind of answer it and then let you take add to it, Marco, and then we'll move on to the next one. So Fred, we would welcome you back to the mastermind at any moment, if or go to RYS Reloaded. Either one of those would be good places to get this particular question answered. But that said, he's talking about his food business, his food tour business, and talking about how to add additional relevancy. He did some keyword theme research using SEM Rush and looking at some of the competitors and found that there is some other keywords other than just food tour typed keywords that can help to add relevancy that are kind of associated with the food tour business, but he hasn't been targeting them. And so the question is, would adding in some of these other types of keyword themes into the drive stack folders as subfolders within the food tour folders, would that help to add relevancy? And because of the association that Google is showing. And so, I mean, to me, you've already answered your question. Yes. You know, if there's a way to create that association that you've discovered by doing some additional research, looking at competitors, using some tools like SEM Rush and all of that kind of stuff, then yeah, you can add that additional relevancy into your drive stack, and that's going to certainly help. I don't know if you want to go further than that, Marco. Or
yeah, just a little bit, because I mean, I can answer this generally. We go after, especially the way that our keyword research VAs are taught, we go after anything that Google considers relevant in a keyword research gig. And we give you guys, whoever orders the gig, the deep keyword research, all of that information. Now, we do separate them. We'll give you tabs, we'll give you silos, we'll give you information that we feel where the money makers are, what the relevant keywords are, and maybe something that isn't a money keyword, but Google still thinks that is relevant. All of that is necessary because what we do inside the drive stack is create relevance and push, right? We create a relevance push from everything that we do, from the spiderweb silo to the way that the drive stack is built, to the way that the gsite is built, to the way the inner pages are done, to the way that we mimic what's on the website. So yes, by all means, I don't care. We do use SEM Rush for keyword relevance, but that's not necessarily what we'll target. What we do is we use Jeffrey Smith's Ultimate SEO Bootcamp training, and we go according to how he teaches what the top level categories are, and then from there work down and create the silos there. We'll create 3 silos, but everything that's relevant should be added. Remember when Network Empire started talking about co-occurrence? Now it's not there, but they began talking about it, and they began explaining it more, what it's all about, what it means. And really, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create all of this in a self-contained Google environment for the bot to feed on, that's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah. And so the next question, part of this, which it's kind of interesting that you asked this, Fred, because we covered this, our very own Dedia, master link builder, was at our live event, HoFu Live 2019 in Denver just recently, and he was talking about doing something similar that you're asking about, which is adding Q&A, questions and answers, into a doc within your drive stack, and just linking back to the source, but not actually hyperlinking, just putting like the text-based link. So you're providing citation, but so you're citing the source, right? So you're providing attribution, but you're not hyperlinking back. I would say that should be okay, provided you're not copying, if you're just copying snippets like what is shown in the Google search results for the Q&A section. So when you search for a question in Google and it brings up that featured snippet, which is a Q&A box, right? And it's got the drop downs, and you click the drop down, and then it shows the full question and then a short answer and a link back to the source where it's pulling that answer from, that question and answer from. You can embed that, or, kind of copy and paste that into a Google Doc or something like that. and then still link, as long as you're not expanding by going to the actual destination URL and copying more of the content, it's just a snippet. So it falls under the same rules of curating content would be on a blog post, in that if you're just highlighting, reusing, republishing a short snippet from somebody else's content, and then you're providing attribution, citing the source, then it should be okay. Now, some publishers will still eventually, sometimes they may find it and they may request that you unpublish it. But as far as it being a copyright infringement, as long as it's just a small snippet and you're citing the source, it should never be an issue. Although, like I said, out of courtesy, if anybody ever were to contact you and say, please take this down or unpublish this, then, I would recommend that you just do it to avoid any sort of, some sort of stupid battle that could ensue. Although, again, I don't think there's anything wrong with it legally, because you are citing the source and it falls within specific parameters of the DMC Act, right? Or the digital whatever Copyright Act. So I would just, encourage you not to go any further than what is shown in the snippets, in the featured snippets within Google search. That said, also, you're asked about curating. Is curating a lot of content about a topic, putting it inside the Drive stack, then pointing links to your money site the correct way to push relevancy for your money site? Again, yes, you can do that. Same thing as by curating content on your money site, you can do that, right? So think about that. That's what we've taught for years, is the best way to generate content for even money site blog posts, unless you're a subject matter expert and you're creating 100% original content. The problem with that is, even as a subject matter expert, sometimes you run out of ideas. But there are a ton of other subject matter experts. I'm not talking about buying shitty content farm content. I'm talking about locating subject matter content written by subject matter experts pertaining to your topic, right? Or your niche, your industry, and then republishing, once again, snippets of it and giving credit to where it's, citing the source, giving attribution. And in the case of curating on a blog, your money site blog, we always recommend hyperlinking to the source and just using no follow external links. That's what I've always done. But that's very, very powerful, because once again, you can create an original article out of using snippets of other people's content, where you're just adding commentary, an opening paragraph, commentary in between pieces of curated content, which doesn't have to be just articles. It can be videos, infographics. Don't curate images. Please don't do that. You can, that's a no-no, but you can curate infographics, videos, MP3s, so audio files, other articles. You can curate all that kind of stuff, and it helps because it allows you to be able to produce content very quickly and expensively. And you can even train a virtual assistant, somebody that's not a subject matter expert, how to locate good content and compile it in a logical fashion, and then just add commentary. So in other words, you can come up with a topic for a blog post, find supporting articles, or even differing opinion articles, right? So that you can do a compare and contrast, or pros and cons, or argue both sides of a topic in a particular curated article, if that makes sense. It's very, very powerful. And it's a great way to create co-citation, which is similar to co-occurrence, in that you're linking out to other relevant sources. And so again, we talk about all of that in Content Kingpin. It's a training course that is still 100% relevant today. I still use that for all of my clients. That same exact method for curating content for all of my clients. You can apply that to Drive Stack stuff too. You're still going to build that relevancy, topical relevancy. Just make sure you're giving attribution. Even if you're not hyperlinking to it, I recommend you absolutely always give credit where credit is due. Anybody want to comment on that?
No, I totally agree. It's a matter of mirroring, right? Everything that you would do on the money site, you do on the Drive Stack and GSite, including curating content.
That's right. Okay, cool. Well, the next question is from KD. Hi, guys. How do you add schema markup to press releases for a local business? Press Advantage sent an email with a link to Google Structured Data Markup Helper tool to create the code, but on the page it is asking to select a data type and then paste your URL of the page you wish to mark up. What URL do we enter here? I don't know, because I don't use that tool. I'm going to point out another one here for you in a moment. The press release is not yet published, so it has no URL to target the markup, and the data type is to tick and the data type to tick as local business? Thanks. No. And here's why. Because if you have your own Press Advantage account, or even if you buy them through MGYB, and we set up an organization page, or you set it up through your own account, right? So you set up an organization page. That's where you should have your local business markup. If it's, an organization page for a local business, you should have your local business structured data markup in the organization page, right? Which will get added to all of the press releases that get pushed out. And many, not all, but many of the publication sites where they get published to will actually pick up that JSON LD code for local business markup. Okay, so you add that to your organization page. However, I've got Press Advantage open here. Let's see if hopefully it brings me into the same standby. I'm gonna have to pause my screen for a moment because my plugin that reset my browser that Marco pointed out, reset the tab. So give me 1 second while I get back.
All right, well, while you're looking for that, let me just tell people that if your press release gets published and you go and look at some of the websites where it was published and you don't see the schema markup, or you don't see an iframe that you sent out or whatever, that's not on us. It's not even on Press Advantage. It's actually on that website not wanting, stripping out all of the code. But what we want anyway is we want to get that in as many places as we can, and that's why it goes out to the entire publication network. But not every website will publish whatever it is that you submitted. Just to make it clear to everyone, because we do get support tickets about that, and it's like, yeah, there's nothing that we could do.
Yeah, so to show you what I'm talking about, first of all, if we go to Press Advantage for the organization, which, oh shit, I forgot. I got my my ID page looped into this. It's going to break the browser. Let me see if I can get the page source before it shuts everything down. All right, so let's see if it'll pull this up. It might not. Okay, there we go. So if we scroll down, we'll see right here is my local business structured data markup starting right here. From here to there, that's my local business structured data markup. That's part of the organization page, right? And so again, as Marco just mentioned, some sites, when it distributes the press releases, it has this code appended to it, inserted with the press release, but some sites will pick it up and publish that JSON LD code as well. What I think you're talking about is for individual press releases. So here I am inside the dashboard. If you scroll down now, there's a section that says enter JSON LD schema. This will be attached to the release in addition to any organization specific schema. So that's what I was talking about before. If it's a local business, you want it, which is what I was showing here, you want to have local business structured data markup on the page, right? The organization page. But then for the individual press release, you can add additional schema markup here. So what I would recommend here, and you can do other stuff too, it depends on what you're having published, but what I would recommend is going to, and this is the tool that I use most of the time. We're going to have one in MGYB here shortly. I'm not sure if it's available yet, but this is the one that I've been using for quite some time now. If you just go to Google and search for schema markup generator, look for technicalseo.com, or just go to technicalseo.com and look for the schema markup generator, which is over here in the left sidebar. There's different types of schema markups that this tool will generate different types of schema. And so the very first one is article. Click on article. And then when you look down here, when it loads this page, you come down here to article type, and there's actually one for news article. So select news article and then just fill out these fields. And here's your schema code over here on the right-hand sidebar. Once you've completed all these fields, then you just copy that and paste that into Press Advantage over here. Now, again, there's other types of schema that can be generated. So it depends on what the article is going to be about. But just doing news article schema markup is very, very powerful, right? To add to each individual press release, okay? So that's what I would recommend. There's other tools out there that will generate this stuff too, guys. This is just the one that I typically use, okay? That's a good question now. By the way, that said, I got to tease this a little bit. I'm inside my blog for that same company I was just sharing my real estate business. And we've got coming soon, we've got some pretty cool stuff coming up, and like the plugin will generate This is Jeffrey Smith's plugin, but it's the pro version, which isn't released yet, but it's coming soon. And it's got all the schema markup generator right inside WordPress for every different type of schema you can think of. It's fabulous. And so that same type, that same article markup right there, if we come down here, there's an article type, blog posting or news article. And then I can just fill out all this stuff. It creates the code right down here and embeds it into the header of this particular blog post. And I can click update and boom, that's going to have the same type of article markup that we were just sharing. Pretty powerful stuff. So be on the lookout for that, guys, soon, early next year. That was a good tease, right, guys?
Perfect.
All right, next one is Simon. He says, when mirroring the main website to the gsite, can you just embed the website pages onto the gsite pages, or is it necessary to copy and paste the content for each website page onto the gsite pages? I just use the embeds. I'm lazy like that, right? I work on the money site pages. That's what I flesh out with good content. And I mirror them onto the gsite. And then I just, and I do some other really cool stuff. We've been talking about how I do silos now with locations. So there's topical silos and then location-based silos, but I do it in a very unique way. And it works really well, especially when you use a gsite. And yeah, all I do is grab the embed or create an iframe out of the money site pages and embed them into the gsite page. Then I optimize the title of the gsite page, obviously. And then, you know, you can mirror that into a folder inside of your folder and files inside of your drive stack, and then just smash that shit with embeds and or links or both. And it works really, really well. Remember, that's your SEO shield. So we do everything externally to the SEO shield, right? So that would be the gsite, the drive stack, and all of the tier 1 entity assets, which, by the way, you can actually take those iframes into your syndication network properties too, guys. Think about that. So, right, there's no reason you can't push those embeds through to your syndication network properties too. Good question though. Paul Thompson says, does proper schema markup feed the bot enough that we don't need to worry about creating long articles on the pages we want to rank? No, but it does definitely help a lot. And Marco's probably going to be better at answering this one than me. I would still, for money site stuff, still flesh out the pages, but adding structured data like what I just showed with my blog, where you know, again, you can add it manually now. Like right now, since the pro plugin is not available, there might be other plugins out there that do it, but I don't know if they provide the schema code that's 100% up to date. I know that a lot of times they're not updated enough. I'm not speaking bad about anybody else's plugin. I just haven't used them. But you can have like a code inserter plugin, right? So like Sogo add scripts, header, footer, and things like that. Header, footer type script plugins where you can add scripts into the header, the head section or foot section or body section of any individual page or post. And you can go use schema creators like what I just shared and create schema markup and then put them into each one of your posts or pages or whatever, so that you're adding additional you know, schema or structured data that the bots love. And I mean, that's, guys, you'll have an edge over a lot of your competitors if you do that kind of stuff. But I would still recommend that for money site stuff, you flesh the content of the page out too. Marco, what say you?
Yeah, I mean, that absolutely, two things, right? Structured and unstructured data. Structured data is for the bot, feed the bot as much as you can, which is exactly what we do. And why we use drive stacks and gsites and iframes and everything, the entity stacks and everything else that we do. I mean, there's a method to our madness. Now, if you then go and you send a person to a page, and now we're talking about people, we're not talking about bots, because what's going to happen is you're going to rank, and that's going to bring you traffic onto the page. And if there's nothing on that page to engage the person, then we no longer care about the bot. Now we care about that person coming to the website and converting, finishing the action that they were set out to do. Because if that person comes on the website and bounces, then you defeated the entire purpose of creating all of the stacking that we created in the first place, which was to get that person onto the page that would convert them. Now, if an image is going to convert them, if an image is going to get them to push and call or whatever it is that you need done to finish that, then that's what's going to matter. So two different things. If you need the content to rank, you have to look at the competition. If you can rank or outrank the competition without 2,000 or 3,000 words of content, then by all means, nobody's going to sit there and go through 3,000 words of content unless they're really interested in whatever it is that you have to say. What you're interested in is that conversion, because that's what cinches everything at the end. And that's what Google is going to look at from beginning to end, is whether that task and that goal, whether it was accomplished.
Awesome. Thanks, Marco. So the next question was from Jack. The next question is, my client is based out of Texas, but operates in 5 other states, fully across those states, not limited to any one metro region. What's the best way to set up the company GMB page so reviews for one state aggregate under the main company as well? Or if that's not possible, what would be the best way to go about setting up the GMB either individually in each state or globally under some other configuration? Well, remember, Google My Business is supposed to be, especially now, there was another question I see on the page here a little bit lower about what happened on November 8th. And from my understanding, which I've only done I've only kind of read through some comments and stuff, is that it was basically an update to the maps algorithm for GMB stuff, and it's gone even more proximity based. So Google's tightened the proximity filter, so to speak. And so with that said, Google My Business is supposed to be for local businesses, right? I mean, we've talked about setting up GMBs and, setting your service area to the United States, for example. And that's okay, but it's okay for like the entity, but it's not going to help you to rank anywhere in the United States and maps. That said, you're also, in this case, you're talking about 5 different states. They're located in Texas, but they operate in 5 other states. So you could have, if you have an office in each other state, you could have a GMB for each office location. It's not necessary, but you can. That said, if you wanted to get reviews in, let's just say Arizona, let's just say that that's one of the states that you operate in. If you get reviews in Arizona, but you want them to populate on the Texas GMB, if that's the way you have it set up, you can't do that. If you had a GMB in Arizona, I mean. If all you have is the one Google My Business location in Texas, then it doesn't matter where you get the reviews from. They're all going to aggregate on that one and only Google My Business location. My point that I'm trying to make is you cannot get GMB reviews in one location and have them also populate onto another GMB location. You can't do that. Because each GMB entity or location is supposed to be its own and collect its own, or aggregate its own reviews. So that said, I would consider what it is you're trying to do. As far as if you have multiple GMBs, which I'm not sure that you do, but if you do, then what I would recommend you do is use some sort of review directing app. I know for contractors, the one that works really well is birdeye.com. I think another one might be Podium. I've not used that, but some of my contractor clients use Birdeye, and that works well, but it's like a review gate, right? So it would be an app where you send out to customers or clients or whatever, the company or the business sends out to customers and solicits a review or asks for a review. And then somebody leaves a review, and the app can direct where the review gets published to, if that makes sense. So you have more control over it that way. And if it's, below 3 stars, then it can be not posted as a review. Instead, it could be brought to, sent to the customer service team so that they can reach out and try to resolve potential issues, that kind of stuff. I would look into something like that if you're trying to have more control over where your reviews are coming from and where they're going to be posted to. Anybody want to comment on that?
Yeah, I'm just guessing that his client and whatever it is that they're doing, that it triggers a 3-pack, right? It triggers a map pack, and it triggers map rankings. If that's the case, then get a map where in each one of the places where your client operates, and associate everything to the main entity that's out of Texas. And so then the AI is sophisticated enough to then understand, once you begin associating all of these, to understand that it's all part of the same company. It's a company that operates out of Texas, but has regional offices in 5 other states. And so that if you do get a review, for example, in Texas for a company in another state, it could be taken into consideration. I'm not saying that the AI is that sophisticated, but it could. I mean, at some point it will be. It will be able to understand all of these different relationships and put everything together. And if you do a really good job in your structured data of putting all of this together for the bot, then you won't even have to leave it to the bot to guess and try to understand what this is all about. You can tell it, you can code everything in JSON LD to tell the bot what this is all about. Having done that, then you don't have to worry about reviewing everything or aggregating everything under the main company. It will all be taken together because everything is associated if you've done your job correctly. Now, if it's globally, then we're not worrying about maps, and then the reviews wouldn't even come into play unless you can trigger a knowledge panel, and that's a totally different story.
Yeah, and if that's the case, if it's globally, then I would just have all reviews going to the one GMB asset wherever the primary location is.
Yep.
Because then all you're trying to do is build the brand, not individual locations, right? So Ross says, hey, everyone. And then he's got the follow-up question below, which that's what, and I'll come back to Joey's question where he says, Ross says, new here. What the hell happened on November 8th? Lots of traffic drops. Any insight? And that's what I was just talking about. As far as I know, and I'm sure Marco's got more insight on this than I do, because I don't geek out about this stuff anymore. If I don't see major drops in my stuff, I don't worry about it. And so, but apparently from what I understand, it was another maps update where it looks like they tightened the proximity filter to where it's even narrower now. Is that correct, Marco?
That's absolutely correct. They tightened up on the proximity. On proximity as a ranking factor. We can literally call it the most important ranking factor, although you can still overcome. That's why we don't usually see all of these changes in the things that we do, because you can overcome anything, any part of the algorithm. You can overcome it, and people are saying, well, don't use brute force, don't do this, don't do that. You can totally overcome anything through what they call it in the Rocky movie, good old-fashioned blunt force trauma. And that's just feeding the bot just a whole lot of related information wherever it is that you're trying to expand to. So even if the proximity factor is the main ranking factor, there are other ranking factors that can and do come into play if you can overcome that one factor. So it's not something to just totally say, oh my God, now I have to go get a GMB in each small city, not only in the area where I am, but in the surrounding areas. It's being able to overcome that proximity factor. And we do a really good job of teaching that in local GMB Pro. And now, being at the location and being able to upload images and being able to show Google that you are actually there and that everything is actually from that location has become more important than ever.
Yes, very good. So let's jump back to Joey's question. It says, hi, does the size of embeds matter? In other words, embedding a 10 by 10 GMB site is still the equivalent of embedding a 600 by 300. So the frame could be 1 by 1, 10 by 10, or 600 by 300, and you still pass the juice. Thank you. Size does matter, only because if you have it too small, then that could be considered cloaking. Am I correct in that statement?
Yeah, you could be tagged for cloaking, although it's really hard. If you do it right, then no worry. Most people can't do it right, which is why we don't even teach it. Yeah.
I mean, technically, yes, you can still pass the SEO with the iframe present, even if it's a 1 by 1 pixel.
Even if it's a 0 by 0.
Yeah, technically you can absolutely do that. I wouldn't recommend it because if anybody manually reviews it and saw it, then they could flag you for a manual action. So,
and that would be the biggest problem, right? With someone coming in and actually you triggering, first of all, triggering enough red flags to trigger a manual review so that someone from Google would actually come to your website, because you're nobody. Trust me, you're not making enough money. Nobody, or most people are making enough money to worry Google and to have someone waste all of their valuable resources on looking at your fucking website in the first place. If you do get that big, or if you just happen to get unlucky enough to trigger a manual and they come and see that 0 by 0, then yes, that is cloaking. There's no reason for you to have a 0 by 0 iframe 1 by 1, unless it's a pixel, right? Facebook, Google, whatever. If unless it's tracking code. So if they come in and look and they see code and it looks fishy, you're more likely to get hit with a manual and probably de-indexed, because I've seen cloaking get hit really, really hard.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so Will says, hey, Marco, have you announced the date of the 4 webinars for BERT? I guess that's for the charity stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm still working on that. It's not only BERT. I'm going to go into entities and AI and NLP and what it actually is, what it isn't. We're gonna discuss and talk about everything that other people just either refuse to talk about, or they don't know enough about it to be able to discuss it. As soon as I have it all ready, I'm going to announce it. I'm going to announce the dates. I'm going to give you the donation page. And remember, this all goes to a really good cause. It's getting kids who would otherwise not be able to get an education, getting them into school so that they can get a good education, get trained, get jobs, and you know, have a chance at life.
Very cool. All right, the next one, Fred says, I was worried that might be a problem. So that's because I was kind of tongue-in-cheek picking at his huge, long question. He says, thanks so much for answering my 13-page of questions. It helped a lot. Thanks, guys. You're welcome, Fred. Fitz, what's up, Fitz? He says, what is the difference between Q&A and FAQ? Well, it's kind of the same thing, or it's very closely related. Q&A is most of the time, like you can see in the SERPs is what I was talking about earlier. But FAQs, that can be a little bit more specific to an individual like business, right? So, I mean, they're basically the same. As far as schema markup, it's the same. But the difference is frequently asked questions should be answered by a client or a business, right? Like, what are the questions that they get asked the most by prospects and or customers or clients, right? And they should have answers to that. But when it comes to Q&A, at least the way that I look at it is when you go to Google and you search for a question, you'll see related questions that get asked enough that somebody took the time to create content around answering that question and then marking it up correctly on their website so that they could get added to the featured snippets in Google search. So it stands to reason that question gets asked enough. It may be a frequently asked question for another business that maybe your particular client or business doesn't get asked that much, but it's still relevant, if that makes sense. So they're very closely related, but there is a slight difference, at least in my opinion. Yeah,
the difference is that Q&A, people should be able to either ask questions or answer questions on the website. If they're not able, if they're your frequently asked questions and your answers, there's no way for users to engage with that, then it's FAQ, it's frequently asked questions. Q&A, again, is on a website where people can go in and interact with the questions and the answers.
Yeah. Yeah, guys, I've talked about this probably in Syndication Academy. And I'll just give another nugget away here because it works really well. And we're almost out of time. So anyways, those Q&A questions that you can curate, right, from Google. And the beautiful thing about it is if you type in a question about product, service in an industry, whatever, the question box comes up now with the drop downs. Each time you click on a drop down, it brings up like 3 or 4 more questions. So like you can just keep drilling down into that, guys. And that gives you almost unlimited content. Like, think about it. It's a content hack, right? You can grab a question and an answer from those question and answer boxes that Google provides you and use that in GMB posts, for example, right? Just cite the source, just like I was talking about earlier, is in the Q&A box, right? The drop down as it expands, it gives you the snippet with the answer, at least partial answer. It might not be the full answer, but it gives a snippet, and then it has the link to read more. Well, you can still use that link in the GMB post too. So you give proper credit to where it's due. That's a no follow link in a GMB post. The button link, right, in a GMB post. So the button URL, the URL that you attach to the call to action button, that is a do follow link. Although I hear in just the past few days, probably since November 8th, some of those are no follow. And I think it's just because Google's still tinkering around in there. But those are do follow links. So you can still link back to the answer of a Q&A, right? A question and answer that you curated. You basically are republishing from Google's own search results to add relevancy to the GMB. You can do this on your money site too, and link back to the source, which is only proper and right. But then use the button URL in the GMB post to link back to your money site, right? To your page that also is about that very topic or question and answer, right? So it's creating co-citation, it's creating topical relevancy, and you don't even have to come up with the content. You can even go through and curate groups of questions, like questions, and then create blog posts out of those on your money site, where once again, you're publishing the question plus the answer. You can create a table of contents at the top of the page. Marco, stop me if I'm getting too deep here. But with a table of contents with jump links or anchor links, right, that jump down to each section that is a different question, that has the answer, that links back out to the source, right? But it's a no follow link on the blog post. And then just like a curated post, you can inject some commentary in between that stuff with an opening paragraph and a closing paragraph with a call to action to contact your business or your company, your client that you're doing the work for help or services with that, for products or services that solve those problems, those questions. Does that make sense? So again, guys, it's a great strategy to use those questions as farm those questions, right? Mine those questions, harvest those questions, or whatever you want to say from one of those, from those Q&A panels that pop up in the Google search results, and drill down into them. You can get gold topic ideas, blog post ideas, GMB post ideas from that kind of stuff. So, all right. Last question is, Austin Dawn says, which of your courses do you teach about making ID pages and mirror gsites? Well, the Mastermind, RYS Reloaded, Local GMB Pro, any one of those three, the Mastermind, Local GMB Pro, or RYS Reloaded, it's covered in all three of those locations. So, am I missing any here, guys?
I don't think you did.
Adam, you want to chime in?
No, I was just saying.
Okay.
Posting
I heard a
and
peep.
Mumbling.
All right. The last is not really a question. It's just a comment, and then we're going to wrap it up, guys. I've got a TV repairman showing up in about 5 minutes anyways. I asked the question about GMBs and review in one location versus all the states that the client operates in. This was that question about Texas and 5 additional states. We answered previously. He says, no follow-up question. Just wanted to say thank you for answering it, and you knocked it out of the park. I've wrestled with this in my head for a week, and you made it clear as day. Thanks again, guys, for all that you do. You're very welcome. That's what this venue is for. Anything else, guys?
No, not unless another question popped up. No.
Yeah, put the link on the page. I think you just scrolled over it, Bradley, but last call for everybody. Head over there. Just follow the instructions on Facebook, get early access to the YouTube and GDN course Bradley's going to be putting together here over the holidays, and save a bundle. But like they said, too, if you want to wait a little bit and pay us 3 times as much, I'm also okay with that.
And go ahead.
I was going to say, I actually prefer that, but, I want you guys to save that additional $200 to spend it on your families at Christmas. So.
And stop by the Mastermind tomorrow, right? The webinar. Because we're going to show how much we've improved the user experience. We want to show how easy it is to find the information now. Before it was just, okay, how do I get through 5 years of information?
Yeah.
Because we have 5 years worth of videos in there, in the archives, right? It's not just the latest videos. It's everything since we started. And so how did you get through all that? Well, now we made it really simple for you to get through it.
That's been a long time coming. There's just so much damn content, so much video-based content in long mastermind webinars. It's been hard to for people to find stuff, and that's a problem we've been dealing with for a long time. And Marco's been working on it in the background since I think January of this year, maybe February, but it's been a long time. And now it's here, it's ready. So it's awesome. It's a big improvement. So, all right, everybody, thanks for being here. We'll see some of you tomorrow and the rest of you next week.
Awesome. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.